Hey there, welcome to the garden. I am starting off this week in such a great way. I'm gonna harvest a few things for dinner, which I think is that's the best. So even if you have a tiny garden, even if you don't cook the whole meal from what you've grown in your garden, if you can add a few little garden things, I just think it's extra fun. And I know I always get so excited. So I have these green onions in this bed here, and it's time for me to harvest some of them because they've kind of just been growing forever. And I also have a few tomatoes that are ripe. So let's get the green onions. Here they are. I'm just gonna take kind of cut and come again method, some of the bigger leaves off the outside, because I just need a few for a garnish. But I love growing green onions as a garnish. It's so perfect. And let's see what else we've got. Oh, a few tomatoes in here, but those aren't ripe yet. But I do have a sun gold. That's ready. A couple more almost ready. Oh, and some Juliet tomatoes down here, I think. Yay! We'll throw everything in the garden basket. I don't know if that tomato is gonna fit. And then I have a couple more Roma tomatoes. Oh, it's so windy. Sorry about the wind. That is so exciting to already be harvesting tomatoes out of the garden, adding them to dinner. Tonight I am making, it's called like a quarter pounder. Is it a quarter pounder? No, Big Mac. It's a Big Mac casserole. So it's kind of got, the Thousand Island, but you use fresh potatoes, and you do some ground beef on top, and then you garnish it. I'm gonna garnish it with scallions and a few of the tomatoes from the garden, and I think it'll just make this kind of fun casserole just a little bit more special. We're gonna have so many more tomatoes soon. You can see the garden arch there. That was an exciting addition to the garden this week, and is gonna really add to the tomato production, because I think the tomatoes are gonna be even happier now that they have something to grow up. Good morning! Having coffee in the garden, and I am just pruning off all of the basil flowers over here in the kitchen garden container. The girls are out here playing too. We've been spending so many mornings out here in the garden and just playing in the backyard. It's beautiful. Still a little chilly in the mornings, but warming up quickly, and we have had a lot of heat, but the basil is partially because of that heat. It's just putting off just blossoms constantly. I kind of can't believe how quickly it's growing. So I've just been coming in, and even if I'm not even gonna use this basil, I've been pinching off the tops as much as I can. Although I have been trying to get kind of creative with what recipes I can make with just these little handfuls of basil when I'm not doing a big, big chop back to make pesto or something. And so this week I actually made a really yummy, I will throw the recipe down in the description because it's one of my all-time favorites. I can't remember I found it on Etsy. Not on Etsy. It's early in the morning still. I haven't finished my coffee. I found it on Pinterest. And it's a great way to use handfuls of basil, because I think it calls for a quarter cup or half a cup of basil, which is just about what you'll have. This is my second handful here of little basil clippings. My next big project probably at some point this week is going to be to do some pruning on the tomato. I'm going to have to work on this tomato and prune out some of these leaves. This is the Roma tomato, and look, there's a bunch of fruit in there, but I just want to make sure I'm not going to miss any of it. But look here too, we've got some flowers on these zinnias. And I wanted to also share that I think we did a good job with the leaf miners, because the Swiss chard is coming back, and I don't see any, knock on wood, I don't see any leaf miners on the leaves yet. So hopefully that just cutting it all back like that really worked. But look, there's an eggplant.
Oh, Mommy, I want to eat it. Was it ready to eat?
It's not ready yet. I think it's gonna get a little bit bigger. I think it has to be about 6 inches.
Why?
But that's exciting, and there's so many flowers. Eggplant flowers, okay, gotta be really, really gentle, but I wanna show. eggplant flowers are so pretty. They almost look like paper or something, kind of like a fake flower, but they're so beautiful. This Japanese eggplant with the really dark stems has been, oh, it's just doing everything I wanted as a focal plant. And it looks so cute. We ended up getting a pink and a little purple zinnia. So this was a mix. So we'll see what other colors we got. But I think maybe we're gonna have a yellow or a green one over here.
Hey, Mom. Oh, what else? Can you show the people?
Oh yeah, let's show everybody these.
These are back buns.
They're called blueberry muffin.
They're called blueberry muffin.
The sunflowers are just, this whole container is kind of spectacular. The sunflowers are just beautiful. And even when they lose their petals, I don't think I'm gonna deadhead them because I kind of like this look. It's kind of pretty, you know, after the petals are gone. And I have had some birds, so I'm hoping maybe the birds will find it. I don't think the sunfinities are going to stop blooming just because I don't deadhead. There's so many buds and flower stalks and stems coming off of this plant. But the flowers last, I mean, this was almost 2 weeks. Yeah, this was just about 2 weeks that this bloomed, and then there's just so many more. Oh, I mean, I wish I could show you this in person. There's something about the camera that doesn't quite capture. It's a little chaotic out here when I've got the girls in the garden with me. They're really good about the garden. They really follow all the rules. They're very, very good. They're very delicate. They help me with watering, but it always gets a little crazy. So I've got a few chores to do this week. I think just mostly the pruning and then kind of keeping an eye. I do need to come in. This is the time of year where some of the plants start, you know, some of the lower leaves and everything start to kind of die out. So I don't think I'm going to do it right now because things are kind of busy, but I think maybe I'm going to come out again next time I see you and we'll do some clean out, and I'll just show you kind of the cleanup that I do in the containers, you know, because that's the big thing that I've got to do this week. Oh, I did want to grab, I just saw this. I'm going to stick this next to my pepper. This came in like a perennial years ago, and I've kept it because it's handy. Like you can see, this pepper plant and the tomato are growing together and they're doing fine. There's actually a ton of fruit on the pepper, but sometimes it's handy just to stick like something like this in here. Sometimes it is just handy. You can like stick this in and it'll just create a little bit of space, and I think it'll just keep the tomato from fully encroaching on the pepper. I really do. Yeah, I'm gonna get in here and do some pruning on this eventually, but this at least will give the pepper space. The pepper is more of like it's a lunchbox pepper, so it's a smaller, compact pepper. I think it actually is a container style pepper. I don't think that it gets to be like a full, you know, like 4 foot big tall pepper. But the Roma tomato, I'm trying to remember, I think it's just a regular Roma tomato. So I think it might actually be an indeterminate tomato. And I need to think about how I'm gonna handle that, because I probably should have popped a container style tomato in this container. I think I just thought it was gonna get big, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Stay tuned for the plans on that. Hey there, so I'm out here this evening just doing that little cleanup on some of the kind of like just spent bed leaves and stuff on the different plants. I'm gonna water in a minute, but I just wanted to get this done before everything got all wet. I just kind of coming in and taking out, you know, around this time of season, there starts to be some little, I don't know, yellow leaves. For example, this is the amaranth and the sunflower, and they're just, you know, a few like yellow leaves here at the base of the plant, and I just take them off. They're not a huge deal, you know. Obviously, if I had a bigger garden, maybe I wouldn't get to tasks like this. But since I have a small garden, I'm able to kind of stay on top of this stuff. And I do think that it helps, you know, just to provide a little bit less food for like slugs or snails. These leaves are gonna hit the, you know, look at that, this poor little sunburned coleus. But these leaves are gonna be on the soil. They're gonna end up falling off the plant anyways, so I figure like better to just come out, and it just makes the whole garden look tidy, you know. I don't know, if you have the time and you have enough, you know, enough time to do it, then I feel like you might as well. I'm really hoping these squash maybe are gonna produce something. I don't know, they're so small, but you know, just take off these little leaves, clean it up, clean everything up a little bit. There actually wasn't as much dead growth as I thought there was. This bed has a little bit. Look at this pincushion flower. The black pincushion flower. It's everything. This garden bed isn't too bad. Oh, this is so spiky. This is the milk thistle. I think I need to just take it out. It's had a little bit of like just dying off. There's maybe one, maybe this is another flower, but it's looking pretty bad. But the other plants in here are looking pretty good. I've tried to keep it fairly clean. Just a few little, you know, crusty leaves. As I said, like, is this completely necessary? No, but it also feels good to tidy the garden. I might tie this. I might stake this up. I've got those little like separators in that bed. I used to put them around the edges of my raised bed to just help keep the plants from falling all the way into the channels between the raised beds. But now in this garden, I've used them to kind of hold up different plants and sort of create like a little trellis. Stuck one of these little dividers in here next to the spoon tomatoes to just kind of keep it from encroaching on. There's a little agaranthum in here, which isn't looking super healthy. I think it's getting dry in this bed. I don't know. I'm really sad my millet didn't grow either. I will never again not fill a raised bed. But not all the plants mind. The tumbler tomato looks so healthy. And aren't these like the most beautiful, even as green tomatoes? So beautiful. So, but I've been just using these little, maybe I'll move this one now that I've been able to tie up the beautiful bishop's weed. Yeah, I can just stick it here and it creates like a little edge. With some of these tall meadowy plants, you know, you need to put something in, and I actually really like using these little metal, you know, it's just like a little metal edger, but it works really well to just stick in a bed and create, you know, like a little V, or you could even make a little triangle, or to put on the edge of the bed. It's really handy, and they come in like packs of like 15, and so you have lots. There's lots to work with, so that's really helpful. And with the wind that we have in this garden, I think that's going to support this. But isn't this beautiful? I mean, there's like these little bits of, I don't know, purple on top of this black pincushion flower. I love pincushion flower. Last year I was just obsessed with it, but I didn't have any in my garden, and so this I started from seed. The other one I got as a start. But it's so pretty. Ugh, a new favorite. This is the blue one, which is still just blooming and blooming and blooming. It's so gorgeous. And look at it next to the kufia. Kind of a very nice, you know, as we get toward 4th of July here. That's sort of a very good pairing. Of course, the salvia too. Look at the bees on it. The bees have been loving the salvia. They are big fans of that. It's so cute. I just love watching them. I like being out here and just watching little bees and everything in the garden. It's so nice. And they are all over this. This salvia is like one of the best plants I've got in the garden for the pollinators. They adore it. There's always bees on it all day long. This container is doing really well. The Superbell's Dreamsicle looks beautiful. I've been doing pretty well at staying on top of spraying it for budworm. But the Linaria that I had in here died, which I don't know why. The other Linaria that I have in another spot in my garden looks great. That one died, so I don't know what the story is, but I think that the Superbell's is happy enough and big enough that it won't matter at all. And I kind of just do this sometimes to get the dead flowers off of it, and then I'll just like sweep up. But look at that, still pretty. I don't even think, I mean, it would have been better with the Linaria, but it's still a great container. Looks nice. Okay, so I am going to tackle this evening. It's not too windy, it's not too crazy out here, so I'm going to tackle some trimming on this tomato. I think I'm gonna go ahead and, I don't know if I said it before, I think I'm gonna go ahead and find a trellis for it, but for now, we're just gonna do some kind of like intense pruning at the base of some of these lower leaves, try to kind of clean it up and just bring a little bit of airflow to this area. I know there are tomatoes in here somewhere. And I like the look of it kind of spilling off the side, the edge. So I like this look, but it's too much. We're gonna start having disease if I let it stay this thick. And as I said, I'm gonna get a trellis. We'll trellis it up. Oh, I don't even know where to start. I'm just gonna try to start taking off lower limbs. And hopefully I don't ruin what we've got going on with this plant. I'm gonna come in here, we've got some lower limbs that are interfering. Try to get rid of the tangle. I'm gonna pretend that this isn't full of spiders. I know it is. One of the things that's happened with this plant is that I have not been trimming back any of the different stems. So we've got, of course, a lot of stems growing up. It's gotten very, very thick. I can barely even see into this plant to try to figure out what is happening down here. We've got so much leaf growth. I'm just gonna take it all out because I can't even see. There's so many leaves. The plant's not gonna be bothered. It's gonna be fine because it's growing all this other growth up. But it's also setting flowers and everything, and we need it to actually be able, we need to be able to see what we're doing with these flowers in here. And there's tomatoes in here, so we need to be able to harvest those. All right, sorry, tomato plant. I feel a little bad taking this all off, but it's getting covered in aphids anyways. Oh my gosh, look at this. I don't want to take too much more off of this plant because I feel like then we start running the risk of hurting it. You can barely even tell, although it's more open. We're definitely going to get more airflow, and you can see the tomatoes now. There were just a lot of these really huge, big mature leaves, right? Like in the middle of the plant. And I think it was kind of a lot, but I don't want it. I want it to grow and do its thing and be wild and wonderful, but I don't want it to encroach on the pepper and the eggplant or anything too much. But I think now I can start getting it to grow up and up and up, and then we'll just keep pruning the leaves up as we go. All right, I'm gonna go grab, I think I have a trellis. Hi there. So we've got a very non-glamorous gardening evening tonight, but it is Tuesday, and Tuesday is fertilizer day, and I have been doing so well this year. Hopefully I can keep it up on staying on my fertilizer schedule. I mean, I think that's one of like the biggest things if you have a container garden is fertilizing. Starting out with good potting mix, I am learning more and more, especially after this year, is important. And, you know, some slow release fertilizers are important, but it's those, like those just water soluble fertilizers once a week or every other week that just make the biggest difference for containers. It's really, yeah, it's kind of like what changes the game. So oftentimes in past years, I have not stayed on a very strict schedule, and I've always, like, something has happened and I've fallen off it. Honestly, in my last garden, I was gardening in Virginia, so it rained all the time, and it would rain and then I would like not fertilize. This garden, it never rains here, which is hard to get used to, because sometimes I'm like, you know, it'd be nice if I didn't have to water today. I don't have a drip system set up out here. I'm not going to set that up, you know, for the 1 year. So it's kind of like, you know, I'm sometimes like, wow, it just would be so nice if the garden just, you know, if it rained now and then, but it doesn't. But it also means that I have been able to stay on top of this fertilizer schedule. So I'm gonna do my thing, fertilizing. Nothing has changed with it, except, you know, I've just been doing the filling up the 3 watering cans and then putting in the fertilizer, pre-mixing it all. It's just like changed my life when it comes to fertilizing. It makes it so much easier. I did notice finally the coleus in my pollinator bed is taking off, and so if it's not too windy, I want to try to show you how beautiful this coleus is looking. We're getting close to the end of June here, getting close to 4th of July, and the Kufia also is like magic. How perfect is that? So beautiful. But look at this coleus. I just love coleus. I really do. Maybe I'll give it a tiny bit more sun. I'll give it some room to grow. But how pretty is that with the amaranth and the coleus and the Kufia? I love this combination. It's gonna look so good in the fall too. This amaranth, a lot of people, I guess, don't like it. Let me know what you think. I love this. I know, I think it looks beautiful. I don't think it looks dead or anything. I don't know. I think it's really pretty. And I love it with the sunflowers. But yeah, I just noticed that leaf is starting, like it's starting to take off. The coleus has definitely been a little slower growing compared to like some of the other things that we've got in this container, obviously, that are very, very much growing huge. But it's starting, you know, it's starting to grow. And this sunflower is really spreading out, which is interesting. But still just covered in blooms. Okay. Let me get out, let me fertilize before I forget. Make sure I stay on this fertilizer schedule. I also think that this pink cushion flower, I know I showed it to you just yesterday, but I'm back staring at it. It's so pretty. This is what happens. Looking at flowers is always more fun than fertilizing. A few questions on what fertilizer I've gotten. I use True Organic. They sent me out some fertilizer like a couple years ago, and then I've just bought it myself ever since, because I like it. It's an organic fertilizer. It's really easy to use. It's a little bit, you know, got fish fertilizer vibes, where like the all-purpose one is kind of smelly, kind of fish fertilizer-y, but works really well. And I gotta get more. I'm gonna order their bloom booster too and start hitting these flower containers with bloom booster. But that's what I use, and it's 2 ounces per 2 gallons of water. So it's super easy. I just put it in the watering cans first, and then fill up the watering cans and then go water. All right, I got it all fertilized. I should have done a time lapse or something, but sometimes with tasks like that, you just need to get them done. And my camera died, and then I charged it, and then I was gonna start fertilizing, and anyways, that's all for that. I'm gonna order some more bloom booster, as I said. I'm hoping, I gave a big dose to the tomatoes in this trough planter. They're not looking great, and yeah, struggling a little bit with them, but hopefully it looks like they just need some fertilizer. So I gave them like a good dose of fertilizer. If this were my long-term garden, I think I would be like definitely hitting them with a bunch of compost. I'm starting to make a list. I'm getting excited. You know, I realized today that it is the end of June. So I realized today that it's basically, well, almost, I'm rushing things slightly, almost the end of June. Next week I'll film a full, June garden tour. We can take a look at how the garden's looking as a whole. And I realized like we're here, we're at the end of June. For me in the past, the first week or two of July has always been peak of my garden. And then after that point, things started to kind of die back. I would start losing some of the squash plants and some of the flowers would sort of fade. It's interesting because I feel like I'm both ahead and behind that schedule in this garden. My sunflowers, the amaranth, stuff like that feels really big. Feels a little ahead, but some things feel behind. Like I don't feel like I'm anywhere near to having my tomatoes. I guess the tomatoes never quite reach their peak in July, but I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting in this new garden space. But anyways, I'm starting to plan now. I'm like, we're within 6 months of moving back to Virginia, and then hopefully house hunting, finding a home, starting to set up and be able to really plan the forever garden. And I'm realizing now, like, I need to start thinking, I don't know, 6 months in advance, but I'm going to start planning and thinking of like what goals I want to do, things I want to do, what kind of layouts. Do I want to have a formal garden space? How do I want to do like a kitchen garden versus another space? And one of the things I'm definitely going to do, what made me think about this, is the fertilizing. Like I definitely want to come up with a fertilizing like composting system, because I do so many containers, I do so much high density gardening. I need to have good potting soil, I need to have good fertilizer, and I want to start working on how I can produce as much as possible from my own garden to kind of create like an enclosed circle. So yeah, those are some of my like thoughts. I want to try to see if I can't do that for the next garden. So I need to start doing some like learning and researching and planning. But anyways, it's just kind of a chilly summer evening here on a Tuesday night, and I just thought I'd come out and chat with you for a little bit and fertilize the garden. I did some deadheading yesterday, so I don't really have any much deadheading to do. If you don't have much time to garden, a garden this size is perfect, because honestly it really doesn't take all that long for me to keep it in a pretty decent state. And so 4 to 6 raised beds, fairly small raised beds, you can totally like do it. I come out here and I definitely do more than I technically need to, but I just like it. So for me, it's fun. Okay, that's all my thoughts for tonight. I will talk to you probably tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be back out in the garden again. The wind is blowing. I'll see you. All right, good morning. I grabbed some seeds last night out of my seed tray, and I'm gonna try one last planting in this trough planter that's been kind of my I don't know what to call it, just sort of my like container of failure this year. So the dahlia is actually looking really good in here. I'll show you. And the zinnias have finally started to grow a little bit, but this pepper in here is pretty sad. It's got like one little pepper on it. It's fruiting a bit. The squash is flowering, but it's small. There's just not a whole lot going on, although the tomatoes in this trough look better than the tomatoes in the other trough. So I'm definitely having issues with figuring out my watering. I think I just there was only the one drainage hole, and I think I'm not like, I should have put a screen or something. I'm not doing a great job balancing the water in here. This is where I planted okra, I planted morning glories, and nothing has come up. The morning glories that I put in the other little container, they have come up. So I think I was also like not consistent enough watering the seeds, because I didn't want to overwater the container, and I just, basically I just have been having issues with it. So I'm gonna do kind of like one last ditch effort to try to get something going in this container. I do have a little bit of the corn. We do have a sunflower here that's coming. I think it's gonna be a total loss, because these tomatoes look great. The tomatoes are producing. They're looking really happy. The dahlia is actually looking good. This area is where I tried to plant like okra. The sunflower or the zinnias have not grown as fat. Like they should be blooming, they should be up, they should be huge. And these squash also are way too small. They're covered in blooms, but that's way too small for like a patty pan squash. And even this, you know, this sunflower looks a little spindly, like I don't know. Yeah, I filled this with that soil that I had earlier in the year that was like not great. But what I'm gonna try to do, I have another one of these trellises, and I pulled out some pole snap green beans. This is called Pink Tip. It's a nice like tender petite bean. It's gonna grow about a 5-foot bean stalk, and it's a 64 days to maturity, so that's pretty good, up to 6 feet high. Yeah, nice big tall, you know, pole bean. Nothing grows faster than a bean, so I'm thinking maybe it'll work for in here, and we might get a little bit of a crop off it. And I haven't in my past gardens had an opportunity to really grow pole beans. Space has been so limited, and with the other things that I've wanted to grow, I just haven't grown pole beans. I just haven't put in the time and effort and everything to do that. But I have one more of these like 4-foot trellises that I put up around the tomato. So I've got another one of these, and I think I'm gonna put that in the bed. If nothing else, it'll add some like kind of architectural interest, I guess. You know, sometimes if you're having a failure in one area, just putting in like a physical thing, like a fountain, a trellis, an arch, you can kind of compensate for the fact that like nothing's growing. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to pop some of these pole beans in here, and I think I might start. I got a kind of plan for my other trough planter as well, because the bishop's flower is sort of on its last legs, so we can take a look at that in a second. But I'm gonna have to come in with something else to put in that bed that's gonna be big and tall, and that can kind of you know, fill in the bed and fill in the height that we need once the bishop's flower is done. But hopefully at least this will cover, if nothing else grows in this bed, we'll have the tomatoes and potentially the pole beans, and that I think would look, it will at least look pretty, and add the balance of height that we kind of need on this half of the garden. All right, so I already built one of these, so I'm feeling fairly confident that I remember what I'm supposed to do. This was just a super cheap little trellis frame. I don't know that I would recommend it necessarily. I don't love the look of it, but it was like one of the cheapest frames that I could find. Again, you know, my next garden, when we move to our forever home, I will like actually invest in some garden decor. But you know, whenever you move, things end up getting broken, metal things get bent and stuff, and so I didn't want anything that, it's not that one, I didn't want to get like to buy something really nice and then have it bend. Now they have little cross pieces that can kind of like go across this, but honestly, since we're doing pole beans, I might just leave it just the poles, and then just have like the four poles. Let's see. Is that gonna look terrible? Why do I make these decisions? If I just put the 4, I don't like the little cross sections. Yeah, they have like these little plastic pieces, and they're hard to line up. And it didn't really look great when I did it around the tomatoes. Hopefully it looks better kind of like from afar on camera, but I don't love it. So I'm just gonna pop this in like this. Let's see how it looks. Like a little plastic bird. I don't know, it's kind of silly, but we'll put that on the top. Here we go. That'll work. Let's see what it looks like from far away. I do like that it sort of adds some height over here. That's what we needed, definitely. That is totally one of those like design hacks. You know, stick a perennial tall little like topiary tree or something, or just grab a pre-built, you know, like trellis and stick it in, and all of a sudden you've got all the height you need in the space in your garden that's been empty. Okay, sometimes I'll just put like put something like that out just to like, even in the winter, to just give some interest. So these are little green bean seeds. We just have the poles here. I'm just gonna put like 2 or 3 by each pole. This was supposed to be dill, and like look how unhappy that dill is. The soil, I think, is just, this was just not good potting soil at all, but that's okay. These are kind of old seeds too, so I'm not terribly worried. I bought those seeds probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago now when I was first gardening, and I thought I was gonna want to do a lot of pole beans, and I realized I did not have enough things for them to climb up. I mean, beans are definitely like, you have to have space. You have to have space for large areas of them. If you want to get a big harvest, you have to have something for them to grow on if you're going to do like a pole bean. But they are nice because they're kind of a quick crop. So you can even do like 2, or you can, if you want to like start planting out more fall things, you know, planting beans that are going to be done mid-August, end of August, and then you're ready to put in like fall gardening is pretty nice. In my last garden, I did a lot of fall gardening because Zone 7, where I was in Virginia, was perfect for like fall winter gardening. Lettuce and kales and things did super well in the fall. So it was really nice to have crops like that you didn't feel so bad pulling out, because of course it's like awful to pull out, you know, your tomatoes that are still doing well or something that's still producing. And of course, like eggplants, peppers, those will produce all the way up until frost, for the most part, for me in my old growing zone. So I do love a fast growing variety, and hopefully that'll give us enough time to get a bean harvest. I'm getting into that awkward point in the year now where, although I'm still planting, we're like getting to, you know, end of June, so it starts to change up what you're able to plant, what you're wanting to plant. Hey there, I'm just popping out into the garden this morning to wrap up this vlog for the week, but kind of, I don't know if it's quite the theme of the vlog, but patience is always the hardest part of the garden for me. So I want to show you 2 updates. One, as soon as I planted those beans yesterday, guess what started coming up in this bed? I think my okra. I think this is the okra sprouting. Of course, as soon as I plant the beans. I don't think it's gonna end up being the biggest deal. I think there's plenty of room for the okra to grow and the beans, and either they'll all grow together or one of them it'll be survival of the fittest. So I'm not very worried, but it just is so funny because, of course, also bachelor button's about to bloom. And I wanted to show you too, look, the black from Tula is starting to color up, and that is so exciting. Oh my gosh, I gotta make sure I grab these tomatoes. I'm starting to get like 1 or 2 tomatoes. I probably could have let this go on a little longer. Maybe I picked that a little early, but I'm starting to get like 1 or 2 tomatoes a day out of the garden. So, you know, not the most earth-shattering harvest, but I will take it. And I am always excited whenever I get a harvest in the garden. So I'm gonna give these to my daughter because she is the tomato lover. And this, something got to it. This container is due. I was almost gonna pick that tomato, but okay, there we go. This tomato is due, this container is due for some kind of refresh. But anyways, a tiny little harvest to end the week. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Oh, we gotta do a pumpkin update. Wait. Before I go, the pumpkin. So let me show you. It's right over here by our air conditioner, so the leaves are getting a little torn up by just the air conditioner flow, but the new leaves are super healthy, so, you know, that's okay. But look, it made it off the edge of the raised bed this week, so now it is spilling off the raised bed. It's going right in the direction that I want it to, so I'm really happy about that. And it looks really, really healthy, and there's a ton of flowers on there, so we may get some tomatoes. or not tomatoes, pumpkins. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk this morning. My daughter woke me up at like 5 this morning, so speaking is a little tricky, but anyways, happy Friday. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.